Hola, in this video we are going to learn how to make questions using question words. First, let's review how to make questions in Spanish. Here's the basic rule. Invert the subject and the verb order. Remember? So when you have a statement like Marta va a la escuela a las 8, when I want to transform this statement to a question in Spanish, I don't use do, I don't use does. What do? Well, first I begin with an upside down question mark, and then I'm going to switch the order of the verb and the subject. So the subject goes right after the verb. So I ask, ¿Va Marta a la escuela a las 8? Okay? Let's see one more example. Los maestros llegan a la escuela a las 7:40. If I want to change this to a question, I do the same thing. I begin with an upside down question mark, then I will invert the order of the verb and the subject. Llegan los maestros a la escuela a las 7:40. All right, but today we are going to learn how to make questions using question words, right? So let's review the question words. Como, how. ¿Cuál, which or what. ¿Cuáles, which or what. Well, if you're asking about something in the plural form, you're going to ask cuáles. If it's in the singular form, you ask cuál. ¿Por qué? Why? ¿Qué? What? ¿Quién? Who? ¿Quiénes? Who? Same situation. If the person you're asking about is singular, you say quién. For example, ¿quién es tu madre? But if I'm asking about plural, I ask quiénes. ¿Quiénes son tus padres? ¿Dónde? Where? ¿A dónde? To where? Remember, when we have questions using the verb ir and where, we don't just ask dónde, we ask a dónde. Okay? ¿Cuántos o cuántas? How many? This one you need to be careful. If the thing you are counting is masculine, you ask cuántos. If the thing you are counting is feminine, you ask cuántas. ¿A qué hora? At what time? ¿Dónde es where? ¿En cómo es how? ¿Cuándo es when? ¿Por qué es why? ¿Qué es what? ¿Cuál which? ¿Quién? Who? ¿Dónde es where? ¿En cómo es how? ¿Cuándo es when? ¿Por qué es why? ¿Qué es what? ¿Cuál which? ¿Quién? Who? Alright, so how do we make a question using question words? So far we have been asking you questions. From now on, we are going to start giving you answers and you have to make up questions. Let's see one example. Estudio español porque es muy importante para el futuro. I study Spanish because it's very important for the future. Well, here my emphasis is why, right? Why I study Spanish. So you should ask me the question, why do you study Spanish? ¿Por qué estudias español? So you need to be careful because my answer I have in the yo form. I study Spanish. So in the question you need to ask in the tú form or could be in the usted form. Okay? A mí me gusta beber leche en la mañana. So you'd ask, ¿cuándo te gusta a ti beber leche? Let's see number 3. Los estudiantes están en el pasillo. Well, here I'm saying where the students are. So you'd ask me, ¿dónde están los estudiantes? Now remember to flip the subject and the verb. So you put los estudiantes after the verb. ¿Cuándo te gusta a ti after the verb? Beber leche. So these were very basic answers that you had to come up with a question. But sometimes you're going to be very, very specific. For example, I have 3 answers and they are the same exact sentences. If you can see, Marta tiene la clase de matemáticas a las 8:15. All these sentences are the same. Nevertheless, I am putting more emphasis in certain parts of my sentence. And because I'm putting more emphasis in my intonation in certain parts, you could give me different answers. For example, Marta tiene la clase de matemáticas a las 8:15. So here I'm emphasizing what class Marta has. So your question should be, ¿qué clase tiene Marta a las 8:15? So what class does Marta have at 8:15? So remember, here my emphasis is what class she has, so you need to ask me what class does she have, okay? So, and don't forget to invert. Subject goes after the verb. Now let's see the other example. Marta tiene la clase de matemáticas a las 8:15. So here my emphasis is the time, not what class she has. So you should ask me, ¿a qué hora tiene Marta la clase de matemáticas? Another example. Marta tiene la clase de matemáticas a las 8:15. Now, am I emphasizing what class she has? No. Am I emphasizing what time she has math class? No. Here, my emphasis is who has math class at 8:15. So you should ask me who has math class at 8:15. And because we don't have a subject, because you don't know who has, you should conjugate that verb in the third person singular, which is él, ella, usted form. So, quien tiene, just like in English, who has, quien tiene la clase de matemáticas a las 8:15. Now, you need to be careful with cuantos and cuantas, and the reason is because students get sometimes a little confused where the subject goes whenever dealing with cuantos and cuantas. Cuantos and cuantas means how many, and when we ask questions using how many, we always have the thing that we are counting right after how many, just like in English, okay? So Spanish is not different. Whenever you ask a question using cuantos or cuantas, you say cuantos or cuantas and the thing that you are counting. Look, ¿cuántas hermanas tienes tú? How many sisters do you have? So students get confused sometimes because they think that hermanas is the subject. It's not. Hermanas is the thing you are counting. How many sisters do you have? Tú is the subject, and tú needs to go right after the verb. Yo tengo 3 hermanas. Okay? So let's see one example. La maestra tiene 5 libros. So the teacher has 5 books. So you should ask, how many what? How many books does the teacher have? So, ¿cuántos libros tiene la maestra? Now, maestra is the subject. Libros is the thing you are counting. So remember, after cuantos or cuantas, you need to have the thing you are counting right after it. Okay, now I would like you to pause this video and try to come up with a question for each answer that I'm giving you. Número 1. Marta estudia español. Número 2. Marta estudia español. So here you have different emphasis. A Pedro no le gustan las uvas. Número 4. A Pedro no le gustan las uvas. Número 5. La comida brasileña es muy rica. Número 6. Yo estudio español porque me gusta mucho. Okay, so let's pause, make up questions, and then we are going to correct together. All right, I hope you did a good job. So let's go to number 1. Número 1. Marta estudia español. So you should have, ¿qué estudia Marta? Número 2. Marta estudia español. ¿Quién estudia español? Número 3. A Pedro no le gustan las uvas. ¿A quién no le gustan las uvas? And make sure you have that a here when dealing with the verb gustar. Okay? So you need to say a quien no le, and you use le because it's the él, ella, usted form, gustan las uvas. And you need to agree gustan with uvas because uvas is in the plural form. A Pedro no le gustan what? Las uvas. ¿Qué no le gusta a Pedro? La comida brasileña es muy rica. So, I'm saying how the food is. So, ¿cómo es la comida brasileña? Yo estudio español porque me gusta mucho. So, I'm giving you a reason. You should ask me, ¿por qué? Why estudias español? Well, I hope that was helpful. Make sure you review this, watch this video again. If you have questions, write them down and ask us in class. Gracias.